Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 142 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the infamous Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. This show shouldn't really be involving too much rambling on. There's not too much to review, there's not too much to preview, so we will be going to the interviews in not such a long time. So let's just dive in now to the review, and we're going to start in a place called Martin's West. That was the name of the venue in Maryland, USA. A couple fights to mention on this bill. We have the two sons of the former heavyweight world champion Hasim Rahman. We're going to start with Hasim Rahman Jr. He successfully moved to 5-0. It was a retirement, actually. He made his man retire in the first round. His opponent's name was Steven Tyner with a record of 4-15 with 3 draws. There's a little clip that Hasim Rahman Jr. uploaded to Twitter, and basically he hit this guy with like a straight left hand, and the guy seemed to kind of really lose his balance and fall into the ropes and stuff like that, and then the video cuts, so I don't really know what happened, but it says he retired, so maybe he didn't want to, have another round of that. So a good win there for Hasim Rahman Jr. Another first round stoppage for him. He's now 5-0. Also on the bill, Sharif Rahman moved to 3-0, a unanimous decision over 4 rounds against Talik Taylor, who was 3-10 with 1 draw going in. Now 3-11 with 1 draw. That's it for Maryland. Moving over now to the Odyssey Arena, though, in Belfast, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom. Let's start with the undercard here. Sonny Edwards, the flyweight, he moved to 8-0, a points win over 6 rounds against Christian Narvaez, who now has a record of 15-8 with 4 draws. Gary Corcoran, 17-2, was supposed to be taking on Paddy Gallagher. Paddy Gallagher had to pull out with a serious injury, so I was gutted for him and also for Gary Corcoran. It was a bit of a grudge match, I believe, that one. Of course, we had Gary on the show a few weeks back. The late replacement ended up being a guy called Victor Ankara, who was 8-2. He stepped in and got TKO'd in round 5 of 8. So a good win there for Gary Corcoran, now 18-2. Hopefully that fight can be rescheduled with him and Paddy Gallagher. Moving up the bill once again, Johnny Coyle, 18-0 with 1 draw. He put his record on the line against Lewis Benson, also undefeated, 10-0. Somebody's O had to go. It ended up being a points win over 10 rounds. A very, very close fight, actually. Johnny Coyle, I don't think, fought to the best of his abilities. It was the first time I'd ever seen Lewis Benson fight also. It was a points win, and it was the referee scoring the bout, so it was so close that a lot of people weren't happy with it on social media. Perhaps if there were 3 judges, we'd have had a little bit of a, more definitive opinion or outcome at least, because the referee, he tried to score it best he could, and to be honest, he probably got it about right. It was very close. I think it was just by 1 point or 1 round in favour of Johnny Coyle, so he remains undefeated now, 19-0 with 1 draw. Lewis Benson now 10-1. Like I say, loses his O there. It would have been nice to see 3 judges score that bout, to be completely honest. Moving up the bill once again, Tyrone McCulloch, 10-0, took on Joe Ham, 14-0. Once again, somebody's O had to go. McCulloch was down in the 3rd round from a right hand from Joe Ham, but unbelievably, McCulloch managed to get back up and win unanimously over 10, so a brilliant win for him. He's the new Celtic Super Bantamweight champion. All the very best to him. Moving up the bill once again, John O'Carroll, 15-0, took on Declan Geraghty, 17-2. A lot of people actually picking Geraghty to win this one. John O'Carroll stepping up in class once again here. It was for the IBF Intercontinental Super Featherweight title. John O'Carroll, a big guy for the weight as well, and a big test for him actually. He didn't really have it all his own way, but he did manage to get the TKO in round 9, and John O'Carroll being tipped for big things now. He certainly impressed me there. A brilliant win. not just to get the win, but to actually manage to get the stoppage. That was quite impressive, to be honest. John O'Carroll certainly improving all the time. He really, really is. I'm pleased for him. He's got a humongous beard. I can't believe they let him fight with that beard. It's it's even bigger than Adrian Browne's beard, the way he grows it out, and they always make him shave it off. So I remember as well, Tyson Fury, when he was fighting Klitschko, I think he had a huge beard at the weigh-in and they made him shave it off. But John O'Carroll, he's managing to get away with it thus far. All the very best to him. 16-0 now. Jack Catterall, 21-0, stepped in against Tyrone McKenna, 16-0 with one draw. It was for the WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. That was Jack Catterall's belt, of course. It was a 10-round unanimous decision in favour of Jack Catterall. Tyrone McKenna was down 3 times, though. I tell you what, he showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of balls, and he showed a lot of determination, to be honest, a lot of mental strength to keep getting back up and giving it his all, and to actually finish was really impressive from him. He will certainly come again. I think he'll learn from that loss there, but the actual fight itself, I think the first round was very close. I'm just going to give it a little round by round rundown. The second round, I felt that Jack Catterall, when he knocked McKenna down in that second round, he hit him with about 2 or 3 shots while McKenna was on his knees. The referee ruled it a no knockdown and actually took a point off Catterall. That was quite bizarre. And then McKenna did then get put down a little while after. That time the referee saw it as a legitimate knockdown, and it ended up kind of ruling out the point off of Jack Catterall. So quite a weird and difficult round to score, really. There was only 2 seconds to go in the round, I believe, as well, when McKenna went down as well, so he was quite unlucky actually there. In the third round, it was another decent round for Jack Catterall. McKenna seemed to respond quite well, actually. He seemed to recover quite well as well. And in the fourth round, I felt that McKenna came back into it a little bit. He had quite a good round himself. Maybe he even won the fourth in my eyes. And in the fifth round, McKenna got knocked down early in that round due to a body shot from Catterall. In the sixth, Tyrone McKenna certainly won that round, and the crowd really started to get hyped up in that round. Things were starting to get interesting. McKenna also was growing in confidence. And to be honest, the last few rounds were quite good rounds as well. It was probably fight of the night. I said that going into the whole thing. I said that this is the fight that's intriguing me more than all the others, and it seemed to really live up to my expectations anyway. And like I say, I think Tyrone McKenna, he threw himself in deep waters there. He didn't really have ample time to prepare for Jack Catterall, vice versa really. But Jack Catterall's been around the block, and he put on a great performance, and I'd like to see him in with some of the other guys. Like I said on last week's show, I think him against O'Hara Davies is a good fight. Throw Terry Flanagan in the mix now if he's not going to bounce back at world title level. There are some great fights out there for Jack Catterall, and like I say, Tyrone McKenna, all the very best to you, my friend. You will come again for sure. The main event here, though, Michael Conlan 7-0. He took on Adilson dos Santos 19-4, the Brazilian fighter that we saw take on Kid Galahad once upon a time before Kid Galahad got suspended. What I will say is, Michael Conlan looked okay. I don't know if he was feeling the pressure from the crowd, feeling the pressure to deliver on that big stage, his homecoming as a pro, but he didn't really fight to his best ability, I don't think. I wasn't that impressed, and it's not the first time I've said that with Michael Conlan. I think sometimes he gets a little bit over-eager. Sometimes he seems to kind of get a bit involved when he doesn't need to. Sometimes I think he kind of neglects his boxing skill to try and impress, and sometimes it goes wrong for him. So, a very dominant win. He won every single round for sure, but he didn't really impress. And, if he was to knock this guy out, then it would have really made a statement, but he didn't really make that statement, to be honest. It ended up being an 8-round points win in favour of Michael Conlan. I will give Dos Santos some credit, though. I mean, he's been stopped twice before, but to be fair, they were to real good fighters. He got stopped by Jesse Magdaleno in 2 rounds. He got stopped by Fabian Orozco, who is not really a big puncher, actually. But that one was quite a big fight at the time, back in 2016. But yeah, he went the distance with Kid Galahad over 12. He did go down in the first round and in the 10th round against Galahad. So when you get the measuring stick out, it doesn't look brilliant. A relatively easy night's work, but nothing really impressive for me, and it's a shame because obviously it was the main event, but it was probably the most, I don't want to be too critical, but I think it was probably the most boring fight of the televised fights. So yeah, a little bit of a thumbs down there, but all the very best to Michael Conlan, now 8-0, a perfect record. Moving over now to the North Notts Arena in Nottinghamshire, United Kingdom. One fight to mention on this bill, of course, we mentioned it last week as well. Dex Spellman, he returned to the ring for the first time since that shocking fight that he had against Scott Westgarth. It took a lot out of Dex Spellman mentally, but he came back to the ring here and he managed to grind out a points win over 4 rounds against Jindrich Velecki, who is a journeyman, to be completely honest. But I'm happy to see Dex Spellman back, a 4-round points win there. He's now 12-1. That one loss, like I say, came to Westgarth, and then about 10 minutes after the fight, Westgarth slipped into a coma and eventually never woke up from it. So real tragic scenes. Of course, we've spoke about that many times, but I'm happy to see Dex Spellman back. Hopefully he can try his best to put that behind him and move forward with his very promising career. All the very best to Dex Spellman, 12-1 now. Moving over to the Holt Suite in Villa Park, Birmingham, West Midlands. This one was a bit of a homecoming really for Sam Eggington. It was for the vacant IBO Continental Super Welterweight title. Sam Eggington 22-4. Peter Kramer in the other corner, 8-0 with 1 draw. He's actually the guy that had a very controversial draw last time out with Peter McDonough. I think that was on the Hughie Fury recent fight against Sam Sexton. I think that was on the undercard there. But yeah, this guy had a very shocking draw with Peter McDonough. Most people saying he was very lucky to get the draw. Of course, he's a foreign fighter as well, so to get a dodgy decision in your favour on British soil if you're a foreign fighter is quite rare. But anyway, he got knocked out in 4 rounds against Sam Eggington. No need for any controversial judging here. Peter Kramer loses his a TKO in that 4th round. Sam Eggington weighed in at 152.25, so it seems like he's very trim actually for a fight. At 154, of course, which he's moved up to now, but it seems like he's made that quite easily looking at that. Moving over now, though, to the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, USA. 2 fights to mention on this bill. The heavyweight prospect Cassius Chaney, he moved to 13-0, a TKO in the very first round against Elder Hernandez, who's now 5-3. And Joe Smith Jr. returned to the ring after some time out. He lost last time against Sullivan Barrera. A real good fighter, Joe Smith Jr. on his day. He had a fantastic, I think it was 2016 or 2017. He was contender for Fighter of the Year. He was the man that retired Bernard Hopkins and knocked him out of the ring, and he got a knockout here in the very first round against Melvin Russell, who's now 11-5 with 2 draws. Joe Smith Jr. is back, ladies and gentlemen. His record now 24-2. Moving over now to the Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma City, USA. 1 fight to mention over here, I believe. Well, a couple fights actually. Mike Alvarado, he moved to win number 39. He's got 4 losses. He made his opponent retire on his stall after 9 rounds of a scheduled 10. Apparently the cut was so bad that the corner decided to stop it. In the other corner, the guy's name was Martin Martinez. What a name. His record now 18-15 with 1 draw. Alex Saucedo against Leonardo Zappavigna. I'm told this was potentially fight of the year, actually. Apparently the first 3 rounds were absolutely incredible. It was for the vacant WBA NABA Super Lightweight title and also the vacant WBO International Super Lightweight title. Zappavigna was down in the 3rd round. Alex Saucedo in deep water here, like I say. A real step up in class for him, but he's moved to 28-0. The TKO came in the 7th round. Leonardo Zappavigna now 37-4. A brilliant win for Alex Saucedo. I did only see a couple of seconds of it. I need to go and watch that because I've heard it was potentially a fight of the year contender there. And the main event on this one, I did watch it. Gilberto Ramirez 37-0. He moved to 38-0. He successfully defended his WBO World Super Middleweight title against the previously undefeated Roma Angulo, who went into this contest with a record of 23-0. It was a unanimous decision win over 12 rounds in favour of the champion Gilberto Ramirez. Now, this one here was shown on Box Nation on Saturday night. I mean, he didn't really look great, to be honest, and the champion Ramirez had some rocky moments himself. He did win very wide ultimately over the course of the fight when it comes to the judges' scorecards, but to be honest, he had some rocky moments, and I think the pundits rightly said all the other champions at super middleweight will be looking at him thinking, do you know what, I fancy that fight. He's got a brilliant looking record, 38-0, one of the longest undefeated streaks in boxing right now, but he wasn't that impressive there. I know he's had a few injuries. This guy came in, he was a Colombian fighter. He came in with that sort of unknown quantity status about him, I guess. A big puncher, we knew, and he showed the power in there, even though he'd only knocked out weak opposition previously. He didn't look too bad, really, but like I say, ultimately it didn't matter too much because he lost very wide on the cards. But Gilberto Ramirez possibly his best days are maybe behind him. He's still quite young, which is, the shocking thing. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him in probably against someone like a David Benavidez. That'd be a brilliant fight, a great unification for the WBC and WBO titles. Two undefeated fighters, two former sparring partners of each other, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that really wraps up the reviewing. Like I said, not too much to go over. I've tried to fly through that as quick as possible. It's now time, just before we wrap up part one, to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA Heavyweight Champion of the world, Mr. Lucas Browne. Lucas, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, it's always my pleasure, Lucas. So, of course, we last spoke in the build-up to your fight against Dillian Whyte. Obviously, that fight didn't pan out the way you expected it to. Did anything surprise you at all in any way with Dillian?
In regards to Dillian Whyte himself, I think he did everything he needed to do. He was ready, he was fit, he was lean, and obviously prepared very well for the fight. I personally think he's probably in the best shape he has been since he started boxing, which was good for him, not for me. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't prepared as well as I should have been, and I have since rectified that situation. Sometimes you have to learn lessons, and sometimes they're painful ones. So, yeah, I'm learning a painful lesson at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's honest for you to say. That's fair enough. I can't remember now how much notice you were given, in the build-up to that fight, Lucas. But was it not enough time for you, or what? What was the reason behind that?
No, it definitely was enough time. I'm pretty sure it was something along 12 weeks or maybe 10 weeks. But there was enough time. I think it was just the fact that my camp wasn't set up the way it is now. All my boxing side of thing was on point. Away from boxing in regards to strength and conditioning and all that sort of stuff, I didn't have anything at all. So I've never actually done strength and conditioning for a fight before, which I have started to do now. So I'm actually very interested to see how I'm going to go from this point on.
Okay, excellent. Now, there was more than a bit of bad blood in the build-up. I'm guessing you didn't really get a chance to talk to Dillian in person after the fight due to the way it ended. Have you guys spoken at all? And if so, is there still this dislike, or is it all kind of forgotten about and squashed now, if you like?
There was nothing to spoke on after the fight, unfortunately. But in regards to social media and stuff, I keep in touch with a lot of people, and Whyte is one of them. I think it's sort of been said and done. We've had our fight. He's come out the victor. I'm accepting of that. He was the better guy on the night. So we've sort of just put it behind us, which is good. So we do chat here and there, and I wish him luck and vice versa. So I think it was a build-up. We had our fight, and then we move on.
Yeah, nice to hear. Now, of course, Ricky Hatton perhaps went a little bit overboard when doing one or two interviews about you. You posted a response video on Twitter. What's actually the situation there now between you both?
I'm trying to get out of the contract. It was a 3-year deal I signed that's turned into 7 at the moment. So basically, I'm trying to get out of it. It ends officially in January of next year, but I'm sort of it's in legal hands at the moment. So I can fight, but he will get a piece of it still if I do fight. So I am a free agent, so to speak, but I still have to pay him for my the pleasure of boxing.
Very unfortunate situation there, it seems. I understand that you'll be undergoing a minor operation on Tuesday on your knee for an injury that you sustained in that Whyte fight. What exactly needs to happen there, Lucas, if you can say?
It's a meniscus tear, like it's a very minor meniscus tear. Now, these days it's very simple. It's in and out in the day, and it's roughly 10 days for recovery, stuff like that, and then you get back into training and everything else. So for me, it is a minor thing. It's something that I need to get done because when I did get knocked out, as I got hit, I fell in a very bad position, which basically twisted my knee up. So all they do is go in and basically straighten everything up. They clean it up, basically. That's the best way to describe it. So it's a slight clean up for me. It's 10 days off, and then I'm back into it. So we've put the fight back from the 29th of July, about a month back. So I'm still fighting. It's a little hiccup, but we're still all full steam ahead.
Okay, brilliant. It's good to hear that it's not going to, put you back too much there. 10 days of recovery is not too bad for the waiting fans. As you said there, you were set to return to the ring later this month. That's now been cancelled, but you're saying providing all goes well on Tuesday, you'd like to get right back in straight away. How soon can we expect an announcement? Is there any kind of, location for it or date for it just yet on the table at all that you can say?
Hopefully it's still through the Neutral Corner promotions, which I was supposed to be fighting on, which is in Sydney. I believe his next show will be the first week in September. So there's something like 5 weeks, possibly. Don't quote me on that, sorry. But first week of September. So I can fight now. I'm sparring now and all that sort of stuff. I'm still doing all that, but I'm doing it, say, 80, 90%, and I don't want to go into a fight, especially a warm-up fight, at 90% and then possibly lose because of my knee, you know what I mean? So I want to make sure I'm 100% and ready to go.
Yeah, so that's about 5 weeks. I think you're right. It's about 5 weeks after your proposed date at the end of July, like I say. You fought in the UK twice now, if I'm not mistaken. Do you see yourself coming back again in the near future at all, Lucas? Is it something that you still want to do?
It's been 6 times, I believe.
Wow.
I've fought in UK. So Butlin,
Rudenko, yeah.
I fought my Commonwealth title over there against Baholi. So I've been over there a few times. Yeah, I quite
My
like
apologies.
it personally. I think it's great. No, you're right. I think the UK fans are obviously sometimes a little bit of an asshole, but they're very much behind. They're very much into their boxing, which is great. And no matter how you look at it, it's always good to have someone there that's interested in what you're doing. So I'm very thankful to all the UK fans for showing interest in my boxing and all that sort of stuff. And I really do enjoy coming over there.
Now, this is a bit of an untimely question, I suppose, at the moment. Now, I know that obviously you're coming off a loss. You'll be looking to drop down a level, for your immediate fights at the moment. But when you do step back up, is there anybody at all that you've got on your radar right now, or, is it too early for that?
To be honest, what I want to do, and this is obviously the plan, whether it goes ahead or not, this is boxing, unfortunately. So the next guy is Roger Izaretti, who is somewhat of a journeyman, I suppose you could call that. But it is a warm-up fight. Maybe an Alex Leopai after that, another Australian fighter who's fought Klitschko, things like that. Then this is my plan to go against someone like a Dave Allen. If I can get through those 3, then possibly like a Manuel Char for the WBA title, which I was stripped of, things like that. So these are sort of the things I want to get back to, sort of a little bit of a building up process, but I do want to get back to some bigger fights, especially in the UK.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that plan, actually. That seems like quite a bright path, actually. I was going to mention, I was actually going to mention in Australia, like the top 3 heavyweights are probably yourself, Alex Leopai, like you mentioned, and Mark Demori. I was going to ask you, have you got any kind of personal relationships that could, potentially stop those fights happening? But then you just mentioned Alex Leopai. Is Mark Demori a guy that you've got a relationship with that could prevent that fight from going ahead? Do those fights interest you at all or not really?
I'm not too sure about Demori, to be honest. I know he's been over in Croatia, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And he's been over there for a few years now, just fighting basically bums. But I think he's retired. I'm not sure if he's actually fighting anymore. But no, it's not really a fight that I really want because I don't think he has any rankings. That's the problem. Like, if I want to fight someone, I want to fight someone that's going to make it at least worthwhile for me, put a title on the line, and get some sort of rankings. For me, that's where someone like a Dave Allen would really sort of be good for me, because I think it's a good, hard fight that we're both going to come to fight with, and it puts me back on the map in UK.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that fight. Just to clarify, Mark Demori has a fight set for August the 4th, actually. So, yeah, he's not retired.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Yeah, okay.
When you were over here, you were able to do some rounds with Tyson Fury. How was that for you? And did you get a chance to see his very interesting ring return, to say the least?
Yeah, to be honest, I had 3 sessions booked in with Tyson. I think it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. He turned up on the Saturday, and for my purposes, it was more of a muck around. He was there and he was basically showboating and hanging off the ring, and he did a spinning back elbow like he was doing MMA things, and he was there really to muck around. But in saying that, I did see the skill level, and unfortunately he's 6'9" with arms longer than most people's full bodies sort of thing, and he can move. So to be honest, he's extremely talented. I like the fact he's trimmed down again, and I did watch that fight. Unfortunately, yeah, it was a bit of a joke. I think the fight in the crowd was a bit better than the actual fight in the ring.
I want to get your opinion on 3 upcoming fights now in the heavyweight division. Obviously, when you were here, I think you certainly shared a session or 2 with Derek Chisora. He's got a very tough task coming up at the end of the month against Carlos Takam. How do you see that one unfolding? I
think it's a good fight for both of them, because they both like fighting sort of close and inside. So I think it's just going to be a general tear-up. There's not going to be too much sort of toing and froing in and out. It's just going to be, let's come together and let's bash it on. So I think that's going to be a sensational fight.
And what is your take on Joseph Parker's challenge against Dillian Whyte? Obviously, Joseph Parker coming off that loss to Joshua, he didn't disgrace himself at all. And, Dillian Whyte, a former foe of yourself, coming off a good win over you, unfortunately. It's a brilliant fight, though, for both. And it's a great stage at this, this point of their careers to get it on. Who do you see coming out the victor there?
To be honest, I was quite surprised. I didn't think Parker was going to take someone like a Whyte, but I'm extremely happy for it. I think it's a genuine 50-50 fight. If Whyte does come in and the shape he was against me and continues that, he's going to really trouble Parker. But at the same time, I think if they let the fight go when they do get close, it will be a very interesting fight. I think they every time that Joshua and Parker got together, the referee broke it up straight away rather than letting him at least fight it out or throw a few punches, where I think Whyte and Parker are going to be much more comfortable, closer, so it should be a great fight.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. And my final real question for you now, Lucas, if this Anthony Joshua fight does end up happening against Povetkin, it's looking like now more and more, who do you see winning that one? I think it's a potential banana skin, of course, with the big money fights on the table, but it's not an easy fight for Joshua. I really don't think it is.
No, I don't think it's an easy fight for Joshua at all, because Povetkin has shown that he can mix it with the best of them. In saying that, coming off that win against Price did show that Povetkin was easier to hit, staying longer. So I think if Joshua comes in and stays long, doesn't allow Povetkin to sort of set himself and get closer, I think Joshua wins it easily.
Yeah, fair enough. And lastly, Lucas, I just really wanted to give you an opportunity to send out a message to anybody that may be listening, not just the UK fans, but also I know you've got a real clan of fans in Australia as well. What's your message to anybody that may be listening?
Well, basically, on my last fight, it was a real wake-up call for me. I think it's something that needed to happen. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't the most pleasant of things. It was very painful, but it was definitely a lesson learned. I have stuck to a rigorous plan of dieting as well as training with strength and conditioning and boxing and everything else. So I think what you'll find is for my next fight and my fights onwards, you'll see the best Lucas Browne that's ever come out, which is good. And I think it's time. I'm 39 years old, and I think I need to sort of get it done as much as possible. So I've cruised along a little bit too long, relying on my power, and I think I need to be in the proper condition and actually box. I think now is the time.
Very well said, very honest. But listen, Lucas, I just want to say, from my point of view, you're one of the most down-to-earth and honest guys that we speak to, so I sincerely wish you all the best on your comeback trail. Thank you so much for your time once again, and we'll certainly catch up with you again in the near future.
I appreciate it, my friend. I'm always here if you want to have a chat, so thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, it's your time to shine. What have you got for us this week?
Stuart Hall has officially retired.
Yeah, I think we said it after he lost to Gavin McDonnell, as I'm pretty sure that we both said, we felt he should probably retire. He did manage to win a world title in the end. He's had a tough career, I suppose, Stuart Hall, and obviously he's carried on for quite a long time in terms of his age. He's an older guy in that division now, and his best days were really behind him, and he probably is a bit of an overachiever, to be honest. He seems like a nice character, so I wish him all the very best in his retirement. But yeah, he fought the best. He really did. In the latter part of his career, that's when he really stepped up in class, and like I say, when he finally got that world title shot, and it was late in December of 2013. I remember it being, it was around Christmas, and he had a brilliant fight, a proper war with Vusi Malinga at the time, and then, obviously, he won the title. He fought Martin Ward with it. He got the draw. Then he lost it to Paul Butler on a split decision. And then he fought Randy Caballero. And, that was really when his career kind of, got to the top level. Like, it was weird because he kind of fought at the top level really late on in his career. And, he made the best of it. He was a real tough guy right up until the finish. He managed to, never get stopped or anything like that. He lost most recently to Gavin McDonnell. It was a brilliant performance by Gavin McDonnell. But, yeah, I think his better days were really behind him. But he did achieve every boxer's dream and win a world title in a great, thrilling fight at the time. So, yeah, we'd like to wish, of course, collectively, myself and Ayaz, Stuart Hall the very best in his retirement.
Ben Jones has officially retired from boxing as well.
Yeah, a friend of the show, a man that's been on the show once or twice before, maybe even 2 or 3 times, a real nice guy, obviously a fighter from Crawley. There's not much going on for those that live local. There's not much going on in Crawley. They're certainly not known for their boxing. And, Ben Jones was just an all-round nice guy. Always a pleasure to speak to. Very, very down-to-earth. Very humble. And, again, he's another guy that I think was so underappreciated because he fought some good fighters as well. I mean, he fought Lee Selby. He lost a very, very close points, fight to Lee Selby. That was a close fight there. He took on Stephen Smith. He lost to him. He took on a few guys. He took on Jamie Spate when Jamie Spate was a decent fighter. He knocked him out. He took on Julie Joyner. That was a funny fight when he took him on in Spain. I think very controversial scorecards there. He had a few kind of fights on the road, and he very much went under the radar. And most recently, I mean, we saw him lose to Reece Bellotti by a TKO, and I think that was really it for him. But what I do like about what he's done, he didn't immediately retire. That fight against Bellotti was just over 4 months ago now. He's really took the time to sit back and think with his family, think with his whole team, and he said, you know what, I think I should pack it in. And fair play to him. He's done it on his own terms. He's achieved some great things, and I just want to wish him all the very best because he was a real nice guy, and he's welcome on this podcast whenever he likes to talk about boxing. One of the nicest, most genuine guys out there. So yeah, all the very best to you, my friend. And hopefully we'll speak to you soon, or hopefully see you soon at some point. But yeah, all the very best in retirement. The game will miss you for sure.
Josh Taylor has entered the World Boxing Super Series tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps impressing us all the time, doesn't he? All these step-ups in fights. He's just come off that brilliant win against Victor Postel in an excellent fight. And then a few days later, boom, he announces this absolute bombshell. He's going to be fighting in that tournament there. The best versus the best. There's no reason to rush this kid. There's no reason, but they're doing it. And we just cannot do anything but sit back and applaud. I love what they're doing with him. Other promoters need to take note, and the world is this guy's oyster. I really want to see him do well, and it's just so exciting, not just for for Scottish boxing fans, not just for British boxing fans, but just for world boxing. To see this guy on that huge stage that he'll be on, it is just a dream come true for boxing fans all over the world.
Karol Relic to defend his WBA super lightweight title against Edward Trojanowski.
Yeah, Edward Troyanovsky's the former champion who actually got knocked out in a round by Julius Indongo, and since then he's kind of, gone under the radar. I think he's put together 1 or 2 wins himself, and he's back. He's back in this fight here. First and foremost, it is a good fight. Really and truly, I think Julius Indongo would have probably got the call, but because he just lost to Regis Prograis a few weeks back now, or a few months back now, it doesn't look good coming off a loss in that fashion to put him in this tournament. So they've put Troyanovsky on. You'd probably have to favour Kirill Relik, but it's still a good fight, especially for, the European boxing fans. It's a decent fight, and, that's the latest news. But yeah, should be a good one.
Regis Prograis will face Juan Jose Velasco, and the winner will enter to the Season 2 of the tournament, World Boxing Super Series.
Yeah, that one being at super lightweight. Regis Prograis, when we had him on the show a few weeks back, he actually said, because like I say, I said it on last week's show, he said that he was going into the World Boxing Super Series tournament. He said it's not a rumour, it's definitely happening. So I can't understand why they're now putting like this imaginary belt on the line kind of thing where the winner goes into it, because Regis pretty much said that it's been agreed, it's no rumour, I'm going into that tournament. So I don't understand why they're saying the winner goes in if they had prior agreements with Regis. But anyway, Regis is expected to do a real number on this guy Juan Velasco. I think that fight's even happening next weekend, so not too long to wait. And Regis, I'm sure, is going to win and just go into the tournament, but it seems kind of weird to say the winner goes in if they've already agreed something with Prograis. So I might have to send him a text about that one and see what the score is there, and if I find anything out, I'll be sure to let everybody know, for anyone that's interested. Is that it for the news, Ayaz, yeah?
Yes, that's it for the news.
Okay, so, thanks once again for bringing us the latest news there, Ayaz. There's some cracking fights in this World Boxing Super Series tournament. Just off the top of my head there at 140, Troyanovsky, Kirill Relik, Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor, all in the same hat. And just some of those fights, if the people that we expect to get through the first round get through to the second round, then boy oh boy, we're in for a real treat there. But anyway, that's it for the news. Thank you for that, Ayaz, once again. It's now time for the previewing. I just want to start in a place called the Collio Quebrado in Trinidad, Bolivia. Now, this card here is absolutely shocking, and this is, we're not mentioning this because there's good boxers on the bill. We're mentioning this because I've never seen anything like this. There are 3 home fighters here. I'm going to start with Saul Farah. This guy's name is Saul Farah, a cross between Canelo and Mo Farah. His record, 66 wins, 24 losses and 3 draws. So he is set to have his 94th pro fight against a guy who's 0-3 with 1 draw. What is going on there? Also on the undercard, a guy called Esteban Hilman Tababari, whose record is 40 wins, 23 losses and 2 draws. Okay, this is going to be his 66th pro fight. He takes on Ruben Pone, who's 0-7. Okay? And finally, this one is the best of the lot in my opinion. Marcelo Antonio Gomez, 38-55 with 6 draws. This guy is actually having his 100th pro fight. He's taken on a guy called Daniel Yave, who's 0-1. What is going on with this commission in Bolivia? What is going on with these matchmakers here? In fact, I want to find out who the matchmaker is. The funny thing is, it's actually happening on a promoter's show, a promoter called Vinny Carita Sr., and he runs a company called Nightmare Promotions, and I think that's the right name. What a nightmare this is. Jesus, I can't believe it's even being sanctioned. Crazy. Moving over now to Kazakhstan at the Barry's Arena. This one is a real bizarre one as well. Beibu Shumanov, the former light heavyweight world champion, fights for the vacant WBA World Cruiserweight title. Now, Beibu Shumanov hasn't had a fight in 2 years. I've got no idea how he's jumped back to the top of the rankings. I think he retired with an injury. He's back now. He's 17-2. He takes on a guy called Hisni Altunkaya, who's actually 30-1. Now, this guy, I really don't understand how he's been put in contention either. This is absolutely shocking. This guy here, of his one loss, he actually came in 2017 to Krzysztof Glowacki, and he retired on his stall after 5 rounds. I remember that one. I think that one was in Brooklyn or the United States. No, it was in Poland. But yeah, Glowacki, I remember seeing it at the time. Wow, Glowacki, a good fighter, a former champion, obviously lost to Usyk in his only loss. He's taken on a guy who's like 29-0. This guy must be quite good. Hizny Altunkaya. No, he retired on his stall after losing pretty much every single second of every round. So he's not a good fighter. He's actually a Turkish fighter that is fighting out of Germany. And honestly, his last fight, he took on a guy who was 3-7 with 1 draw. He went to points with him. It is really bad, honestly. I'm trying to look at his best win on his resume, and I really can't see one. They're so bad. So this guy is awful. He's taken on Bebet Shumanov, who hasn't fought since 2016 in May, so over 2 years, and I just can't believe it's happening. But thankfully, it's not for the full WBA world title. It's for the regular. The super title, thank the Lord, is on the line against Usyk and Gassiev. So we can look at this as a bit of a paper belt, actually. Anyway, that's it for Kazakhstan. All the very best over there. The promoter of the show is actually Bebet Shumanov as well, so he's promoting the show and fighting. Unbelievable. Kazakhstan and Bolivia go hand in hand right now. Moving over now, though, to the final bill to mention. It's happening at the Save Mart Arena in Fresno, California, USA. It's going to be shown on ESPN. On the undercard, we have, let's start here with Andy Ruiz Jr., 30-1. He takes on Kevin Johnson, the kingpin himself, 32-9 with 1 draw. Now, the thing about Kevin Johnson, we all know he's well over the hill now. He retired, just after losing to Anthony Joshua. And then he came back. He literally came back. He was fighting a few fights, if I'm not mistaken, in Germany, and he got stopped in his last fight, which happened in March against the guy who was only 10-0. Andy Ruiz Jr., the same kind of thing for him in terms of his inactivity. He lost to Joseph Parker for the vacant world title. He's only had 1 fight since then, and it only went 1 round. So to be honest, he's fought 1 round in a year and just over a year and a half. He's had 1 round in a year and a half, so could be possibly a little bit ring rusty, but I don't think ring rusty enough to, derail him from beating Kevin Johnson, who, like I say, at the ripe old age of 38, he's almost 39. I don't think he puts up much of a threat really now. I'd expect a win there for Andy Ruiz Jr., a man that, like I say, was right up there, world title level, and he's just kind of vanished out of nowhere, really. No one thinks of him as, as a guy in the top 10 or anything like that, and he's a real good fighter. Some people probably listening to me right now who don't even know who he is, they're going to probably have to Google him. He's a good fighter, man. Doesn't really look in the best shape, but he can seriously go some rounds, and he's got really quick hands for a big guy as well. Also on this bill, we have Egis Kavaliauskas. That's the guy that knocked out David Avanesian in his last fight earlier this year. He really, really impressed me that night. He takes on Juan Abreu, who's 21-3 with 1 draw. Now, Juan Abreu is a real big puncher, 19 knockouts from 21 wins. Of his 3 losses, though, he's never been stopped. And I'm guessing Kavaliauskas, 19-0 with 16 knockouts, he's going to try to become the first man to stop this guy. But what I will say about Carlos Abreu, I don't know, the opposition hasn't really been there. The most notable name on his record is Jamal James. He did manage to put him down, in that fight, but he lost unanimously over 10. He fought Jesus Soto Karass. He beat him, but I don't know what that really says, to be honest, at this part of Karass's career. But yeah, I'm expecting Kavaliauskas to get a win there and probably win quite well. But the main event here for the WBC World Super Lightweight title, the only man really at 140 who hasn't entered the WBSS that we mentioned earlier, Jose Carlos Ramirez, 22-0. He fights Danny O'Connor, 30-3. Ramirez, he went the distance last time out with Amir Imam. He really impressed me when he beat Mike Reed. And to be honest, he is a good fighter. He's only just recently linked up with Robert Garcia as his trainer. He left Freddie Roach. That was a bit of a backstabbing kind of move. But Danny O'Connor, I think he beats Danny O'Connor really easy, probably even knocks him out. Danny O'Connor, like I say, 30-3, one loss by knockout. It was actually to Gabriel Bracero. And Bracero, after knocking Danny O'Connor out in the very first round, he lost against Paulie Malignaggi, and that was Paulie Malignaggi's, I think it was his last fight before taking on Sam Eggington. So a really old version of Paulie Malignaggi completely beat Gabriel Bracero, who in the fight earlier knocked out Danny O'Connor in the very first round. Also, it's not like it was a fluke or anything. Of Danny O'Connor's 3 losses, not only did he get stopped in the first round against Gabriel Bracero, he also lost a complete shutout to Gabriel Bracero, who's very limited. That was back in 2011. So yeah, a very padded record, Mr. Danny O'Connor. I think even Paulie Malignaggi wanted to fight him at one point, but yeah, I think Danny O'Connor loses and probably gets knocked out, so I'm expecting a few knockouts on this bill here. I'm expecting Jose Ramirez to get the knockout over Danny O'Connor quite easily. I'm expecting Egis Kavalauskas to become the first man to stop Juan Abreu, and Andy Ruiz Jr. against Kevin Johnson. Maybe that will go the distance, maybe. We'll have to see what version of Kevin Johnson gets in that ring. But yeah, like I say, it's a bit doom and gloom. There's not too much to review. There's not too much to preview. We've tried to scrape the barrel a little bit there, and that really does wrap up the previewing. And just before we wrap up part 2, the one last thing to do is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the welterweight prospect, undefeated, known as The Flair. It's Mr. Blair Cobbs. Blair, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello. How you doing?
Excellent, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Fantastic.
Excellent, my man, excellent. So, Blair, I'd like to start really with a typical opening question. Please let the UK fans, the UK listeners, let them know how your journey began. How did you get into boxing in the very beginning?
Well, I always wanted to be a boxer for a long time. And when I was a little kid, the first thing I ever wanted to be was a Power Ranger. And that's kind of funny, but I wanted to be a Power Ranger. And when I grew up, I guess that wasn't impossible. So boxing was kind of like the next big thing for me.
Excellent, man, excellent. And you started boxing at what age? Do you remember now?
Yeah, I think I started boxing around 14 years old. 14, okay. And I didn't get into a boxing gym until I was about 15. And I actually started in a real funny situation. I started boxing when I was in Mexico. I was boxing in Guadalajara, Mexico. My family was living out there for a short amount of time, and I got to learn how to box around some of the really, really tough Mexican fighters and trainers.
Oh wow! So did you have much of an amateur career? Because I don't know if you did. Tell us about that. Did you fight amateur for quite a while, or?
Yeah, I fought amateur for quite a while, but it wasn't the traditional amateur background where you got to go to the nationals consistently and had all these things put together, because I didn't have a stable background. I didn't have a stable lifestyle at that particular time as I growing up as a youngster. So I just constantly was bouncing around, and I just got my experience through the time that I was boxing. I started boxing in Mexico, then I was boxing in New York, and all throughout the Bronx and Brooklyn and Manhattan area. And then I moved to Philadelphia, and then I got a lot of experience in Philadelphia. And actually, I had a lot of professional experience too, in training camps, and Bernard Hopkins mentored me. It's a great experience.
Wow. Coming
up as an amateur.
Wow, that really is quite impressive. Now, obviously, you're a southpaw. Are you a natural southpaw, or did you convert?
Yeah, I'm a natural southpaw. I write with my left hand.
Oh, brilliant!
And
okay.
Yeah.
And like you say, you were born in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. You're now based in Las Vegas. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
You're based in Las Vegas now.
Yeah, coming to Las Vegas now, yeah.
And that's quite a big move. I mean, that's a completely different part of the US. Obviously, you said that you had a stint where you were in Mexico as well. Just tell us about, the journey in terms of location. It seems like you've been pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. It's interesting. Every location now that I've lived in and and went through boxing in the amateurs and in the pros. They had their different styles and their different pros and cons about them. And once I made the move from Philadelphia to Las Vegas, that's when my professional career really started to pick up.
And how did you end up in Mexico when you did, Blair?
My father was living in Mexico for a while. He met a woman and fell in love, and then we ended up living there for a while. Yeah.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Now, you were training for a while under the tutelage of the great Ismael Salas, if I'm not mistaken. How was that whole thing for you?
It was fun. It was fun, interesting. I got to pick up a few technical things and picked up a few skills and technique. It was interesting.
And now, I know that you've sparred some really, really, really good fighters over the years. Could you just reel off a few of the guys' names that you've done rounds with for those that may not know?
I was in Shane Mosley's training camp for the Manny Pacquiao fight. I was in Marco Antonio Barrera fight in Mexico for the second Manny Pacquiao fight. I was in Danny Garcia's training camp for the first time that they tried to set up a Zab Judah fight, and a few of them, quite a few. It's just a lot. It's a lot.
And you mentioned there about Marco Antonio Barrera, obviously one of the best, the best Mexican fighters, really, certainly of this past generation. At the time when he was fighting Manny Pacquiao, you were a young kid back then, right?
Yeah, I was very young.
What was that like?
But I had a lot of abilities. So I like when I was younger, I had so much ability that I was overwhelming people at the time, and the people that was training me thought that it would be good to help out Marco Antonio Barrera. Boxing Barrera was an incredible experience. It was very interesting. Like early in the sparring, I would be getting over on him because of my speed and my ability to move around and just doing all kinds of awkward things and awkward movement. But eventually he caught on to me with his lofty experience on top of me. And it was just a wonderful experience to just be in the same ring.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And as you said there, you were brought in for Shane Mosley to replicate, I'm guessing, Manny Pacquiao's style. You were brought in with Antonio Barrera. That would indicate somewhat that you must have a similar style to Manny Pacquiao, and that's not a bad comparison. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest, of course. Are you, do you fight similar to Manny?
At times. In my earlier days, I had that very same style, especially coming into the amateurs. I was overwhelming people with punches and bunches and just pretty much flooding people out. It was so bad to a point that people thought that I was on steroids while I was in the amateurs, because I was just able to just put out so much energy. And like as a pro, I kind of settled down to be able to place my shots a little bit better and to be more seasoned. But at times I can put out that same kind of effort and that same kind of tenacity as Manny Pacquiao did.
Well, that certainly excites me for sure. Now, of course, you're signed to Golden Boy right now. Your record is currently 7-0, undefeated with one draw. That draw came in your last fight, which was back in March of this year. It was a technical draw, though. Could you just walk us through what basically happened in that fight there? I understand you were taking on a fellow undefeated prospect as well.
Oh yeah, but he was a good fighter, but at the particular time, I was really, really drained for that fight. I was really drained, and looking back at that fight, I could have put out a whole lot more, but my body was kind of just shot for energy, and it made me have a subpar performance to be able to put that guy out. But no discredit to the opponent, because he definitely got in there and did the best he could do.
Yeah, I mean the main thing obviously is it's a draw. It's a minor blemish. It's not like you've lost your undefeated streak, of course.
Well, in the scorecards, the scorecard still read me off as the winner. I won every single round. But because of the accidental headbutt in the fourth round, in like the early going of the fourth round, it had to be called a technical draw. So it's a draw by technicality. It wasn't like a back and forth action fight where as though like it was really, really close. It just so happened to be, the guy ended up getting a cut on his head, and I didn't know that like if you get like an accidental headbutt and the guy gets cut, that like before the fourth, like in between 4 rounds, it goes straight to like a technical draw. After 4 rounds, it goes to the scorecard. But the fight was only 4 rounds, so like based upon like the rules, it's a technical draw. So it's not even like a real draw on my record, but it was a learning experience to say the least.
Yeah, for sure, because it seems quite harsh actually. Because if they would have let the fight carry on an extra couple of minutes or whatever it was, just to the end of the round, I'm not sure how bad the cut was. It must have been pretty bad. But if somehow they would have let the guy carry on, then you're saying you'd have won on a decision. So it's kind of unlucky on your part, but we'll leave that in the past. Yeah. You said there that you were very, very drained for that fight. You've decided to now move up 7 pounds to welterweight, which I'm sure will be a brilliant thing for you. You're fighting this Friday in Los Angeles. You're taking on another undefeated prospect, a man called Ramiro Cibrian, I think it may be said. It's a 4-round fight once again. What should we expect to see from you come Friday night, Blair?
Fireworks. like my name says, man, I'm the Flair, and I'm going to show out. I'm going to show up and show out. I'm going to bring a whole lot of tenacity, a whole lot of flair. I'm going to bring a whole lot of everything: speed, power, agility, and the throwback from the old school fighters. You're going to see style and grace.
And of course, this interview's taking place on the Monday of fight week. Tell me, Blair, what will you get up to each day from now until fight night? Just give us, take us through the motions of what you really get up to day by day on fight week.
Well, throughout fight week, I'm just preparing my mind and my body, and to just be able to fight. I'm ready to fight right now. Now it's just all about waiting until that time. We chopping down the weight little by little, but it's not very much weight because I just moved up. So right now I'm just focusing, preparing my mind, watching fight tape of an old school fighter, and just preparing, visualizing, and doing things of that nature.
And now
eating healthy food.
Sorry to cut you off. Eating healthy food. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's it.
And in the 147-pound division, obviously welterweight, at the moment people are kind of struggling to identify a real king of the division. For me, it was certainly Keith Thurman. I think that that win over Danny Garcia solidified him a unified champion. Obviously, he's since lost one of his belts. Terence Crawford has moved up, the former 140 king. You've got Errol Spence, people are talking about as possibly the number one guy. Who do you identify at this moment as being the man to beat, the real king of that division?
Right now, it's all about Blair Cobbs beating Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. But Errol Spence and Terence Crawford may fight. So I may be in training camp for one of those fighters because I'm a southpaw myself, and it'll be nice to get the experience. And then later on, when the dust settles, I'll be fighting one of them and putting one of them down. And that's the kind of mindset I gotta have in order to be the number one fighter.
For sure, of course. And another fight that's happening, I think it's next weekend or perhaps the weekend after. Lucas Matthysse defending his world title in a couple of weeks. It's a real hard fight to call, in my opinion. Manny didn't look great against Jeff Horn. Matthysse didn't look great until he knocked out his last opponent to win the world title. If this fight happened 5 years ago, I'd say it's an easy win for Pacquiao. Now I'm not quite sure. Who do you see emerging victorious?
I still like Pacquiao, man. I'm a big Pacquiao fan. I've always been. I just believe in Pacquiao no matter what. He's a little older. Things is different. His tools aren't the same. He has different tools. But if he's able to utilize the tools that he do have to be able to out-trick this young lion, I think he has a chance to win. I mean, this guy, Matthysse, he has this problem with almost every southpaw he fights. I mean, every single one of them. You know, he lost every single southpaw that he fought. So, and every boxer that he fought. And do I think that Pacquiao, like at the experience level that he has, have the ability to box? I think so. So, if Pacquiao does box, I think he'll win. If he doesn't and he tries to just bang out and falls victim to Mathisse's power, it could be a long night for both fighters.
Certainly. A very, very intriguing fight, that one. And coming down to my last couple of questions for you now, Blair. What's your knowledge like of UK boxing? I usually like to ask all the guys that we speak to from overseas what's their favourite UK fighter of any era. But if your UK boxing knowledge isn't quite up there, you don't really have to answer that question. It's down to you.
Oh, man, I love UK boxing.
Great.
I actually wanted to box for UK, honestly, at one point. You know, right now, AJ all day.
What about
the heavyweight?
History?
From history, I like the other heavyweight actually. And he beat Mike Tyson, and
Lennox
he won
Lewis.
Lennox Lewis. He won the Olympics. Man, he was incredible. I remember he beat Riddick Bowe in the amateurs. He was incredible. Amir Khan is an incredible UK fighter. Kell Brook, an incredible UK fighter. I wish they would have fought each other early on in their career. And it's a bunch of guys. Ricky Hatton, oh my God, like Ricky Hatton Mayweather, like really inspired me to really do my best in boxing. That was like my favorite year, 2007. Carl Froch, oh man, the list can go on forever.
What's your thoughts on Prince
Joe
Nassim
Kawasaki?
Hamed?
Oh my God, Joe Kawasaki. Joe Kawasaki is amazing.
What's your thoughts on Prince Nassim Hamed? Everyone likes him.
Prince Nassim Hamed, he is something else. He really brought light into the lighter division when it came to just all boxing, not UK boxing, but just all of boxing. Because first it was all about the heavyweights, and if you wasn't a heavyweight, you wasn't no good. But Prince Nassim Hamed, he is a phenom. He just came in there like a whirlwind of just tenacity, and just, man, he really turned things around. He was incredible.
Yeah, he certainly
I
was.
can't believe I forgot to mention his name. You know.
Everyone likes to say.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, he truly was.
Yeah.
What's some of your favorite guys
Flipping
to watch?
over top of the front, the rope. He'll
That's
flip
it.
over the rope, all that stuff. Things that I couldn't even do.
You should try that one.
And I'm
Blair.
a
You should
gymnast.
try that.
Yeah, I'm a gymnast too. Like, I was one of the youngest people to ever do a double backflip.
Really?
I think I was like, at the time I was like 5 or 6 years old. Yeah.
You should
Prince
definitely
Nassim
try
was
it.
that
You should
good.
try that. You should try that flip over the rope though, man. You should try that.
Maybe one day.
And like I say, coming down to the last question or two, who is some of your favourite boxers to watch now? Do you like to watch boxing in your spare time? If so, of all the guys today, who excites you?
Right now, I'm really watching. I watch a lot of old school tapes right now. Like lately, I've been watching Sugar Ray Leonard and trying to break down like some of his methods and the way he boxed. That's like lately I've been watching that. But Terence Crawford, like the way he does things is really good. Very technical sound. I've been watching him very closely. He's fluctuating height. He's fluctuating distance. He's playing the jab game in the beginning of the rounds and everything. By the time people get like he tries to win the jab game, and then and if that doesn't work, he'll switch and work the jab from the other side. And he'll wait until the guy starts to make a mistake, start to get frustrated. They start to come in because they're tired of getting jabbed, and then he starts countering, pop, 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 and then next thing you know it, the fight is over because he's putting together combinations with these counter punches when these people overcommit and make mistakes. He's amazing. He's stepping around, and he's not even like that talented. Terrence Crawford wasn't the talented fighter. I know people, and I know him from when he was an amateur. He wasn't the talented guy, but he got so much skill and ability that it's amazing right now. I'm just watching everything that he's doing, and it's a real treat to watch a Terrence Crawford fight for me.
Yeah, to me as well. Certainly a brilliant fighter, a man that's just moved up to 147 like you have. Lastly, Blair, I'd like to just ask you to inform our listeners of where they can follow you on social media, anything like that, where they can follow your journey.
Yeah, you can follow me on Blair Cobbs, Blair.Cobbs on Instagram. You can follow me at Blair Cobbs on Facebook. And just watch out for me, Blair The Flair.
Blair The Flair. No Twitter account just yet?
No Twitter account just yet. I'm still kind of reasonably new to this stuff, so I really need some help with getting that stuff together. But I'm still working on it.
Okay, we'll certainly look out for that. So, Blair Cobbs on Facebook, Blair.Cobbs on Instagram. Everybody go and check that. But listen, Blair, it's been my absolute pleasure speaking with you this week, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck for Friday, and we shall catch up sometime after, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 142 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the former WBA Heavyweight World Champion, Mr. Lucas Browne, and the up-and-coming undefeated welterweight prospect, Mr. Blair Cobbs. It's been a little while, actually, since we've spoken to a guy that's only had a handful of fights, so it was brilliant to get Blair on the show. A few things have happened whilst we've been making the show, though. A few bits of news. James DeGale has relinquished his IBF world title, meaning that he won't be forced into fighting Jose Uzcategui, who many felt would probably be able to beat James DeGale, to be honest. Anthony Joshua has announced that his two next fights will be happening at Wembley Stadium on September 22nd and April the 13th. Some opponents to be named in the coming weeks, I believe. And also, after a few dates falling through, Andre Berto and Devon Alexander will finally be getting it on August the 4th in New York. Jay Leon Love will also fight on the undercard against the former world champion Kid Chocolate Peter Quillin. But that's really all we have, people. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. The biggest thanks of all goes to you. Have a fantastic weekend, and we shall see you all next week.